All right. How does this been better?
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
I like it. We'll see if the fans love it.
Now they're gonna eat us.
Hey, you know
Yeah.
what? We think that
Every
every time,
week.
every week. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Degrees. My name's Adrian.
And I'm Alex.
Today we have another special guest. Special guest, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I am Josiah. I'm just a friendly neighborhood DM. Figured I'd say hi and talk about some things I really enjoy and want to improve about Dungeons and Dragons. So, I hopped on. Thanks for inviting me, Adrian.
Yeah.
It's been a good one.
Yeah, no. Me and Josiah had a conversation, and he started talking about like PC death and kind of improving monsters and all that, and I was just like, dude, come on, like you get it on the pod because like this is some good stuff and stuff I want to listen to. So maybe others have that same kind of feeling. So I wanted to kind of like push this narrative that I was listening to into this kind of sphere, I guess.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I guess let's start with some like easy beginner questions. Like, how did you start off with D&D? Like, what is your kind of, I guess, relationship with it?
Well, I started playing when I was working I had a temporary job at Starbucks for a couple of months, and some of my friends there were like, "Hey, we're playing D&D. You want to join?" I was like, "I've heard of this thing a couple of times on YouTube. Yeah, I want to do it. I like fantasy books and stuff." And I only ended up playing 2 sessions with them in 2 different games, but I just loved the idea of making our own stories and stuff, and not having to wait for whatever the new book I was waiting for at the time. So I hopped onto the internet and looked around, and after searching, and I found some videos, and they were like, "You need a DM," and I was like, "Okay." So I dragged my family, and I didn't even use the Dungeons and Dragons rules. I just used some online dice and pieces of paper, and we played a game, and went from there.
I love that
Think
so
about if you just
much.
wrote down all the rules that you use. Like, you could have had your own multi-million-dollar company. What an opportunity lost, right? How do you feel about that? No, I'm just
Wow,
kidding,
just
Josiah.
throwing shit at him right off the bat.
I have the rules for that game, and to be honest, I probably prefer running that over Dungeons and Dragons, but it's kind of hard to get up with the amount of content and amount of rules that Wizards of the Coast provides. So I switched over eventually.
Gotcha. Well, that's awesome. I remember like the first time I was just like all of us collectively were like reading rules and like, well, I don't know what to do in this situation. So it was like a lot of go pause, go pause, go pause in my first kind of session. So I think that you just kind of like playing it off the cuff is really awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. What was your first character?
First character. My first character was Zaysalu, the human paladin. Played him for 1 session, and the only thing of interest that happened was we went into a sewer, and one of the other PCs got infected by a disease because there was climbing around in the sewer. But I, being a paladin, was immune. I was like, "Can I just like rub this like feces water on my glaive and make it a really disgusting glaive to infect my enemies?" And the DM was like, "You have now." There was a long story there, but I consecrated my glaive into a +1 glaive of like sickness, or disease or whatever. But it was just like a glaive covered in dung. And that was my first character, and I played it for 1 session, and then I finished the job at Starbucks, and I didn't play again.
So yeah, and what have you been playing recently?
Recently.
Mm-hmm.
Well, recently I've been playing Elswith, also a paladin, but Elswith the Elitern Elf Paladin in Skylar's West March game on the Discord there. I've had a lot of fun with this because I hadn't really played Paladin other than that 1 session there, so I diving a little bit deeper and getting to do stuff like get a Holy Avenger, level 6, and smite things to death a lot. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Alex, do you have any questions?
No, I'm just here for the ride today, I guess.
Oh, no, don't do that to me.
No, I mean it sounds like a standard Aside from like the shit stick.
The shit glaives, yeah.
Yeah. I played one game one time and then I found Skylar. We've heard that
Bummer.
story before.
I mostly DM, so I haven't played a lot of characters.
What's your favorite DMing moment?
Favorite DMing moments? Ooh, that's a good question. So, a few months ago, we were playing in a game that's kind of on hiatus right now, but my PCs were assaulting a restaurant called the Zaquali's, and they had been going over all sorts of plans and spent several sessions leading up to this. They got there, and they came in, and there's a big lake with this stronghold in the center of it, and they snuck up and took over another boat, and they captured one of the drow on the boat, but they killed the rest of them to interrogate him. And one of my PCs was playing a drow from the same civilization who had defected, and she comes in and she's like, "All right, we can't be hurting and killing all the drow. Like, I kind of have compassion for them because they're my family, even though they try and kill us all the time and stuff." And the other PCs were like, "We got to be mean and torture them and stuff." And there's kind of a debate going on about like the ethical things there, and it was actually like a heated debate into the personal. And one of the PCs sat the guy down, and the drow PC was interrogating this drow soldier, and he being like really snarky and kind of throwing jabs. He's like, "Traitor, you screwed up. You think you're so good." And my PC got actually angry and like tried to kill this drow, and another PC stepped in front, and there was a confrontation there, and it was really cool. That's probably my favorite DMing moments.
So so when you say like you felt that it became more personal, like it felt like it was out of character all of a sudden kind of thing?
I feel like they really got into their characters, so they felt like they were treating the world on its terms instead of as a game.
Ah, okay. Now I see what you're saying now.
That's a really interesting like character shift of like, I'm gonna stick up for my people, and then when I actually get to it, no, fuck this, and like try to kill them, but somebody else, you made such a compelling argument that somebody else was like, no, bro, like you can't do that. So I'd be curious to see like the character development and the background for that PC of being like, oh no, you're right. I was just mad. Like, how do you just rectify that in yourself? Or you don't, I guess.
Do you have a favorite DMing moment, Alex or Adrian?
Alex.
All 4 of my experiences. Wow.
Shut up. There's still gotta be something. Something deep down in your soul you're proud of.
I mean, honestly, I think I'm going to hold on to it for a while. Like getting my dad to play, and even during like Christmas, he was like, "When are we going to play D&D?" I was like, "Dad, I don't know. Like we all have to have an open time in our schedule for us to play." And he goes, "Well, what can I just play?"
That's beautiful.
Dad, what are we going to do? So yeah, but my dad, he loves his Larry Scalafani. So
that's amazing.
Don't give your dad a bard. It's awful.
I actually ran for just my sister like that. I ran a game for a lot of people who kind of dropped in and out. And one time my sister was just like, "Hey, can you play right now?" And I was like, "Yep." Pulled up the dice. "Where do you want to go?" Points to the map. All right. And she almost died like a bunch of times and cried. But she told me after that was like the best session ever. So it was a good time. Just try it.
Do it, Alex.
Just me and my dad. We'll record it. Maybe that'll be a Patreon special.
Yeah. Do
like,
that.
Me DMing with my dad. Maybe like Larry Scalafani's like backstory of like how he ended up on this island, because we played him as an islander for my sister and her boyfriend. So he's already there. Like he's a local celebrity or whatever. So now I feel kind of inspired to maybe just have a moment where we're DMing his backstory.
I think it's possible. Essentially, probably just stick him at the same level or something, or put him up and just like his level decrease was due to like having been sitting around the island for too long or something like that. But yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. Like, how did he get back to level 1?
Yeah, his fame had just kind of overwhelmed him, and he wasn't as adventurous. He just kind of liked to stay in this spot where he was known and famous. I don't, just an idea.
Yeah.
Just an idea.
Well,
Just shooting shit.
we could do that. He
Oh.
could like change classes entirely. Just be like, I had this one thing, I did it, and then I gave it up for some traumatic experience, like a James Bond situation, right? I'm done, and then the adventuring sucked me back in.
Yeah, exactly. I am no expert. I've never played with one-on-one, so I think that's super intimidating to me. But yeah, go ahead and just do the thing I'm afraid of, Alex.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of my favorite DM moments. I don't know. I've played a lot of games, okay? But not all of them are like memorable. Or like every moment, you know.
Yeah.
My favorite part when I'm the DM is when the players kind of like take over on their own and they build their own part of the story, like without me. Like I've already kind of set the chess pieces in motion, and they riff for like 10 to 15 to 20 minutes by themselves without me having to say a damn word. It's just them going. Like because I've made the thing already for them to play in, that they don't need too much of my intervention. Like me feeling that way is just like is my DM moment, I guess. Like when they start like going back and forth with their own player dialogue with role play and all this stuff, and it's just so amazing. I think that makes me feel good. I don't feel like there's anything I do in particularly funny or good, but that's just my own internal struggle as a being. I just have that problem in general. So it's hard for me to pick a moment other than creating something for other people kind of thing. I made comedic effects when it was really sad. I don't know if that helps.
You made comedic effects and it was sad?
No. When like the tone was like sad, I made like some comedic thing happen to just like lighten the mood and let's dip out of here. I always try to balance it with the good and the bad. Like one of the main like kind of good people in this world has kind of disappeared. So to be honest, currently the mood hasn't really been funny. It's been chaotic. I guess I can talk about the last session where Dave knew exactly what was in this portion of the map because he's DM'd this game before. And he watched the players mess around with a booby trap, about to set off the trap, and then somebody ran into a building and set off another trap, so they like stopped what they were doing because they got blasted back by the force of the first booby trap. And then I'm like, I gotta give them a chance, because if they had messed with that trap, it would have been the end for sure of like at least one or two of them. I could have killed them there. And Dave was just watching in horror. Like, oh my god, these guys are gonna die. And I can't say a word because that'd be metagaming. So he just stood there and like right at the edge, he like half his body is inside the proximity and half his body's out. So like he's about to get like the full blast too. Like he's like, I can't metagame. I have to be somewhere near them. So he just stood there and watched them like fucking fiddle with a lock that would connected to like, it literally says hundreds of bottles of fairy fire, or not fairy fire, alchemist fire, and then the guy he failed to check because he rolled a 1 and he's just like, oh no, and Dave didn't say a word. I'm like, oh my god, these guys almost killed themselves. I was just like, somebody do something, and I can't say a word either because I can't save my players. They're doing stupid stuff. They're gonna get stupid prizes.
Whose team are you on?
I don't know. I have to shut my mouth every time when something bad's gonna happen.
See, this is my theory that you will not ever be able to kill somebody unless they like. I don't think you, Adrian, the DM, will be able to kill somebody. I think the player characters will be able to kill themselves. But I don't know. I don't know if I believe that you would kill them or allow them to die without some sort of escape plan.
Yeah, I think it's because I've had bad experiences with like people feeling like they've been railroaded. So
Oh yeah.
I try to give them a hint without telling them directly of how to do something. Like the last we had a one shot, and I gave them a way around this difficult fight. To be honest, I didn't tell you outright how to do it, but I told you that something happened, and it was kind of interesting, and all this stuff was going on. Essentially like gave him a hint on how to kill this person with because like this person hit like a damn truck, and would have killed potentially like the caster in one hit, and then everybody else subsequently, slowly but surely. But yeah, I also should have just killed the guy you guys were fighting or looking for because you guys waited an hour, but I didn't because I was tired. I didn't. If the soul could handle being tired and being disappointed at the same time.
You know, it was a fun. I think that's the balance, right? It's a fun one shot. Ultimately, at the end of a one shot, we want to have accomplished the thing and go home feeling good,
Yeah.
right? So not necessarily like life altering moments, especially when we are talking about, I don't know, we'll spoil it a little bit, like Christmas things, right? So if we're all trying to find and save Santa, like I don't necessarily want to not save Santa, but I want to be able to have my spell slots for the giant boss. Like I want to be able to do things
And
like
y'all didn't really
heal.
need those spell slots. Especially, I was too tired to figure out how this creature worked properly. I really, I was reading the rules and I'm like, well, this seems weak. I don't know why I let them to rest. I thought this was going to be a big, like, oh my god, fight. And I was tired. And I was really skimming the book. Like, I didn't. There were supposed to be dead children, and I'm like, this is dark. I'm going to put stuffed toys instead.
Oh, in case you want to know what we're talking about, our one shot will be available via Patreon. You will also be able to, as a Patreon subscriber, join our one shots, and you could be a part of this fun and hang out with me and
Cool.
Adrian and maybe a special guest or your fellow Patreon subscribers.
Yeah. Thanks for the plug. Appreciate that.
So you said you felt like the monster was too weak. Is that what I gathered?
Yeah, well, in all honesty, I think the whole combat was very balanced at the end, and I shouldn't have let them rest. Like the monster could have done some like awesome things, but I couldn't figure out its spell capabilities because it looked more like just illusions and stuff, and I didn't know how to properly attack. It was a green hag essentially, and they had a lot of HP and a lot of armor. But it doesn't matter when everyone hits like a truck.
Yeah. Turtles for life.
Oh yeah.
Did you make any changes to the green hag?
No, I did make changes to some of the other monsters though, just to spice it up, because I didn't think they did well. So the children that were supposed to be sleeping in beds, I reskinned them into dolls. So like, essentially the anti like toy maker, like it's a plush snake with syringe teeth, and it's a whale with a bowling ball in it. Like very dangerous stuff for children.
A whale with a bowling ball in it.
Yeah. And it was fun. Yeah. Skylar's character was playing a wrestler essentially. And he just made a macho man voice the whole time.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Did the guy die or something?
Well, the real life Randy Savage died.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But yeah, that's like the most recent things I've played so far. I have not played My Curse of Strahd. Oh, I said it. Damn it! I was trying so hard not to say it.
I was wondering if you were going to get through this whole podcast without actually acknowledging the title.
Your game.
Yeah, because I say it every week. I usually say it, and I try not to because it's like the only game I have right now.
You said you had that trap with your PCs there. Did anyone die there, or what happened?
Oh, okay. So after the first trap went off, it sent out like
Mm-hmm.
this big like essentially like lightning struck around in a 10-foot area around the tower, which the trap was inside that area. And to be honest, I could have just said, and now it hits the trap. But it also just kind of like dictates that it's people. So I just was making it very people oriented. So anybody that tried to get back in this field of lightning was going to get struck. And I think one person tried and got hit. Silly people. Anyways, I looked at the sketch of this caravan and it's huge. It's 17 feet tall. And I'm like, oh, well, the 3-foot kobold can definitely see the underbelly pretty well of the trapdoor that's there that he can get in without having any issues.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to get in. And then we sat there for like 20 minutes, them holding on to a lit alchemist fire. It was just like if they had broken it, it would have just exploded. But they're just like holding on to it. And
Oh yeah.
the kobold goes to the lake, comes back, and pours water into this oil fire. And as he pours it in, this is only would be bad if it was oil. And I'm like, and the fire spills out everywhere. And the barbarian just fucking crushes the floorboard underneath it so that the spread doesn't get to the rest of the alchemist fire. I was like, they're gonna die. They're gonna die. If nobody does anything, they're gonna die. Because like the damage, if they were inside of it, was I think it was 8d10 outside, and then it was like I want to say double that inside, like a ridiculous amount. Like they will die no matter what if they were inside. I mean, if they rolled all ones, maybe, but it was just ridiculous. That's what happened to them. And that's where we left off because everyone is fatigued because of a curse.
Okay. So they didn't end up actually setting up the trap. Have you killed any PCs yet?
No, I'm sorry. I can't.
No?
It's hard. I love them all.
It is hard. Do you feel like you want to, or do you just feel like you're incapable? Why are you having this reaction?
Well, there's two things. If there's no fear of death, what's the point of playing? Okay? What's the point of having health points if all I'm going to do is like, oh, it just barely died, whoa. And I don't want that. I want them to fear, like, them to think tactically. I don't want them to turn around and it's like, ooh, a piece of treasure, and the doors are collapsing, or like the buildings collapse around them and they try to go back. Like, that kind of situation. Like, I want them to hurt for that.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to know that, oh, this isn't, you can't be whimsical. You have to be serious sometimes. And this was a serious moment. And if they didn't roll so many damn nat 20s, they would have gotten like really hurt. But they did. Every single like coup de grace, like this is the moment I get them, like in my grasp kind of feeling. Like, and a nat 20, and I'm like, I have to accept the roll.
Well, were you willing to kill them?
That's a good question.
No.
Shut up. I
will die on this mountain. No. I don't think Adrian has it. I don't think he can kill him. I really don't.
I feel like you're pushing me. I think this is all.
Maybe that's how we get you.
So, and that's like one of the topics that I wanted to talk to you about because you've had experience killing a player, and I want to like how you felt and how it kind of turned out because like I'm afraid that I kill somebody, and then it was because it was my fault for being like I didn't have a nice balance of an encounter. But the problem is I'm always pushing onto the player side instead of the villain side. But
The world side.
Yeah, the world. Yeah, that's a better. And I don't know. I just think that sooner or later I'll take my finger off the scale and let the dice roll themselves and figure out what happens in front of them.
The first thing, do you feel like your players know that they could die?
Oh yeah, I let them know. I let them know every second that they could die.
Well, not just saying it, but like, do they feel it?
I don't think they do yet.
No.
Right now they haven't healed though. Because they're afraid to go into this place because they haven't leveled up. Only one person's leveled up because of this curse, and they haven't healed because of successfully had a long rest because they keep having nightmares and restless ideas. So they're really concerned. The world is kind of creeping on them eventually. They've had this big kind of moral turning point in which one of their main kind of like sources of like safety, sanctity, and just like joy has gone away. And slowly but surely things have been like the players have been turning a little bit more darker. Their actions are just more vengeful and like there's a slow it's like a slow like wheel effect. Like they were all scared at the beginning, kicked ass on top of the world, something bad happened, and then they're coming back down. And that's what I want from them.
So Strahd is wearing off on them.
Well, Strahd is wearing them down slowly, and I'm excited. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it as much without spoiling too much about what's going on.
All right. Do your players make death saves very often?
No, actually, no. I don't. I think at the very beginning, and that's it.
Because most of the time when players die, it's because they fall unconscious first. And I'd say like a good half of the encounters I run, maybe more, have players that fall unconscious. And so depending on the tone of your game or whatnot, it could be more or less, but once players fall unconscious, that's when your players go, oh no. Like, it is a ticking time bomb. You have as few as 2 rounds with the wrong rolls, or as many as maybe 6 before their fate is decided, right?
Right.
And it's not kind of out of your hand because you're not even making the rolls. You can't fudge them. That's the one thing I find that like puts the fear of death in your players quite well. And the second is that it's kind of hard to kill a player if your monsters aren't attacking unconscious players, because there's usually a lot of actions to stabilize or heal your PCs before they do actually die. So you don't really need to be afraid of killing PCs just like willy-nilly with them falling unconscious. And if you do feel like they're in an encounter and someone needs to die and someone's unconscious, just attack them a couple of times and they're dead. But where am I going with this? I guess I'm saying your PC's falling unconscious is a good first step.
I like that. That's like a stepping stone for me to try instead of just like being so scared of everything. Because we have like one cleric, and I think nobody else has healing spells but the cleric. But still, they have like potions and helping them out and all these other abilities that they haven't even had to use since the first like couple sessions. It's essentially telling me like there is this borderline barrier that I haven't even touched to make me feel considered that I've been hard on my players.
Maybe. I do know that a lot of my players who have played in other games often say, "Oh man, you're running a really deadly game" when they start falling unconscious. Mm-hmm. So I think I might be on the more extreme side there, but PCs don't usually die, even though they fall unconscious quite often. And it just puts a bit of a fear of death in them because I'm repeating myself now, but yeah, if you were to start maybe targeting the players who are low in hit points and trying to draw them unconscious, and then you kind of feel it out. Are they freaking out with that, or are they kind of doing the death yo-yo where they fall unconscious and they get healed up and they fall unconscious again? If that happens, then you can say death saves don't reset. Death fails don't reset except on
like a short or long rest kind of thing.
A short or long rest.
Yeah.
And then falling unconscious is really bad because even one failed death save kind of adds up over time.
That's a really good idea. If they are yo-yoing and you do eventually want to put the fear of death in them, I would definitely create a different path for my character if that's what was going on and my DM was like, no, you gotta wait. Like, sorry, bro.
I think I've seen that where like they pop back up and you punch them and they're down again and they back up with that 1 HP and you punch them and back down again. It's like, just stay down.
Yeah. Another thing with killing characters, I find that it's like foreshadowing how dangerous a monster is a good thing. If your players, say amongst the group, you hear them say, "Oh man, we could die here," then it's a lot safer to kill them versus if they say, "Oh, let's just go in," right? If they're not expecting to die, they should usually have a point where they can choose to go back. What the cost of going back is another question. But they should be able to choose to go back instead of dying, and then when they do die, it's more meaningful. For example, I believe if you roost your trap there, it sounded like they didn't. At first, they didn't really know there was traps, but they triggered one, the lightning trap.
Yeah.
And so they know there's traps around, and at that point, all bets are off. They know you've already telegraphed to them that they need to be watching out, and so when they do die, it's kind of narratively appropriate because they've already kind of seen it coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that was like because most of them took like half. Or no. I think like only one person took half damage from that because there's like 4 of them in the area of this AOE like lightning spell. So they had already taken damage and they're just like already hadn't healed earlier and they're just like, oh, this is no good. This is bad. This is trouble. I think like, okay, well, hopefully they're cautious, and if they're not, I tried my best kind of thing. But you know, I might have had a different tone, but from if I think back correctly, but I'm not entirely sure. I just remember being very tense that whole encounter. It wasn't even an encounter. That whole like end of the session part.
I think for where you are in Curse of Strahd, it sounds like that's where you want them to be, right? You don't necessarily want them to be like starting to die, but you have gotten to a point in the story where Strahd is wearing down your characters, and so they may make some dumb mistakes and they may end up killing themselves, but you know, you're at the like precipice of that moment coming. So, you know, preparing different ways of like potentially killing them off or not killing them off, or you know, you have some tools as a DM to think about that, right? You don't have to necessarily just let them come up and down. You can make that stack before they get a rest. You know, especially if they haven't rested, there's probably some reason that they need to, you know, figure out this curse situation before they move on to the next step. So I think you've put them in a corner, but they can, I hope they have the tools to get out, because otherwise that sucks.
You know, I just want them to last until this commission I made for them is done, and then they can die, okay? Or as soon as one of them dies, I'm like, and here's the commission!
You just scribble out the missing character.
Just a big X, or just like tape something over it. It's a LOL, sorry. You know, those are all very like wonderful points, and I feel like I'm definitely kind of taking this a little bit more to heart and to understand like what the next session's going to be like. So I love all of this, Josiah.
You love all your PCs.
I do, but they're gonna die eventually. I have to stop being such a baby. We'll find out. I'm not gonna give myself a goal of who I'm gonna kill. That's bad.
It is good to love your PCs. If you're not really sad that they died, then you're just kind of being mean.
True. Oh my gosh. Some of them are. I want to say every one of them has their own flaw, which is great. They all have the opportunity to be overzealous or too intrigued or just plain just thinking like I'm the best. For them to have an opportunity to do something stupid and hurt themselves. Potentially fatal. Okay, so I want to talk about a bit splitting the party. I think I've already explained my splitting the party kind of scenario. I think I did. Alex, have I said anything about splitting the party, or am I just remembering?
We have talked about splitting the party. You had somebody who wanted to go off and do their own thing, and then you were like, nah, like let's come back. But it was an uphill struggle a little bit.
Oh yeah, okay. I have a different story then.
You have another story.
Yeah. It was very cinematic though. Like they felt safe in this area. It was back in town, and there's three things they wanted to see. One was the inn, to see if the allies were still alive and doing well, to see their NPC companion that I've kind of made into a person, or into like one of their main interests, if they're okay, and then Irina and Ismark to see if they were okay, or to bring the sister and the brother back together and kind of reunite them. So 3 groups went their separate ways. 2 to the brothers, 3 to the potion shop lady, and 1 to the inn. It all narratively worked out. Like, so the brother and the sister kind of like met back up. They're saying the town is kind of in ruins. The mayor has gone crazy. He's kind of starting enforcing these like martial laws, and like anyone that's like not from the town exclusively is deemed other and is killed. Like a bunch of shit's going on. And they're like, well, how's the inn? How's the inn doing? What are they doing? Well, I think they're just boarding up. And then I'm like, cutscene to the inn. Well, the guy's like, hey, we got your letter. Also, I'd be willing to assist you in any ways you can. And then the innkeeper looks at the letter like, we didn't send this letter. On the letter, it says, hey, the potion shop lady is in trouble. Come back quick, or something like that. So we cut there and we zoomed back, and it was the end of the session. And they walk in, and there's broken glass, and tables are turned, and there's potions are missing everywhere. And all you see is Strahd come out of the shadows, and that's where I ended the session. So that was my other, like, split the party. And so, like, they had 3 people had to fight Strahd at close quarter combat, but they had an ace up their sleeve, and they used it. And that was the only time they could use it. It's done. So they're able to survive that encounter, but they lost somebody in the making of it. Essentially, the potion shop master, her incorporeal body was found, but then disappeared because they tried to use some magic stuff and it didn't work out the way they wanted it to. And now they're on the warpath and they're angry. Oh, it was lovely. For the most part, from what I've experienced, I always try to either leave my session on a cliffhanger, or something funny and interesting happens right at the end.
Have you ever split the party in 4 sessions or whatever? Alex, have you split the party before? Or have your PCs done it?
I, as a PC, have split the party. We ran, and I know we've talked about this before too, so it's not anything. But if you want to skip past those because you've been a listener for a long time, or if Adrian just wants to cut this, that's fine too. We have split the party. We had... The group had been given the same quest to retrieve a painting from a building. We were all thieves, so it made sense. And then half of the group started to question why we were doing the thing and having more of a moral dilemma, and then trying to trick the buyer into getting the fake one while we figured out what was really going on with this evil painting. And then the other half of our party wanted to go retrieve the painting and just fuck it. So it became like a rush to get our plans all worked out. Unfortunately for my side, which was the moral high ground, the other team rolled really well, so it happened very quickly. So we had less of the opportunities to actually like get our plan completely organized.
Cool.
Figure out what's going on.
So like 2 halves of the party had a race to like accomplish their own kind of mini goal.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was really fun. I mean, I liked playing with the game, or I liked playing with that group. So I think part of that was also that I liked the camaraderie. I liked the people I was playing with, but I haven't had a very stressful split the party moment, and we all felt it was okay because each half of the party had a very complicated situation. So we were talking about it as players, while the other side was working out their step, and then we would have our plan laid out and then run that plan while the other side is working on their plan. So it was really neat. Like, I didn't feel like, and we didn't know we didn't know what either side was doing. So I think it was an efficient use of time too, because we didn't need to know. We just needed to know how much time we probably had left.
Cool.
Yeah. What about you?
I really like splitting the party because it adds a lot of tension when PCs are trying to do something that they couldn't normally do as one group. So, for example, infiltrating a stronghold, normally the PCs could fight whatever encounters are up there, but if the rogue and the ranger or whomever who are stealthy sneak in, they're going to be a lot more exposed, but they can also do a lot more that they couldn't do normally. And so it allows different party members to shine in the ways they couldn't normally because of their normal friends and stuff. And actually, in the Drow Stronghold, I've run it 3 or 4 times now in different skins with orcs or whatever. But every time I've run it, I've had my PCs split into 2, sometimes 3 different groups to take it out because it's so complex, and they always just go, we can't really just take it on straight because there's probably like 30, 40 enemies inside, maybe more, and depending on how many PCs of what level I have, and they go, all right, we need to get this thing out of it, we want to steal the money, we want to assassinate the leader, and so they figure out a way to do that. But most recently, my PC split into 3 groups. One was just the rogue, and she wanted to rescue some goblins from deeper in the fortress who had been slaves to the drow. And they had scouted out earlier and found the goblins, but they didn't know how to get them out. And because there's just too many guards, and so they said, all right, we want to draw the enemies out onto the walls of the fortress and fight them. And they sent 2 different groups, like a split maneuver, where they attacked from the front with a group and set the gate on fire, and then they snuck up to the back, and they did another group so that the drow split up and ran around. And then while they were sending reinforcements to both sides, the rogue went down to the basement and stole the goblins back out and rescued them. It was really cool, and it allowed all the PCs to be in situations where abilities they normally don't use because they're not quite as good as an alternative. For example, our druid isn't as good at starting fires and stuff, but he had a couple of spells that could do that. But because some of the other PCs were elsewhere, he was the one who let the gate on fire, and they came in, and then they brought the boss out onto the top, and an 11th level spellcaster cast Insect Plague, and 2 of the PCs were falling unconscious, and they were running around trying to save them, and the other PCs were watching them die, or almost die, and on the other side, they couldn't do anything about it, and they all got away, but just barely, and it really ratchets up the tension, because whenever someone starts to go, oh man, like, we're getting bored here, or oh, this is the same thing over and over, and you just switch to the next thing, and, the rogue is downstairs, and she looks around, she's surrounded by guards, because they noticed the gate opening, and then you switch to the group at top, and it's like, guards are pouring onto the balcony upstairs. You want to start fighting them, and they start shooting them, and then the person kind of Insect Plague, and they're like, oh no, we need to get out of here, and they switch to the next person, and they're trying to get the PC who jumped onto the fortress back off because he's trapped and stuff. Made for a very dynamic encounter, where each different part of the puzzle kind of challenged all the different PCs in different ways that, as a whole, they don't normally feel.
Did you feel like when you did that encounter that you kind of proportionally kind of cut that time up? Or like what they did is what they kind of deserved that amount of time and that amount of tension kind of thing. Like, because that's a thing about splitting the party that I always kind of fear that, like, I'll focus on one then and not the other kind of thing. I mean, for the most part, I feel like I've been doing fine, but I always fear that, like, I'm putting too much pressure on this kind of thing. And how do you decide when to kind of like jump to that other team? Is it when like something amazing happens or cinematic or like it just makes sense kind of thing? Sorry, a whole bunch of questions all at once. No big deal.
Well, let's see. I generally pace it by, well, when I'm in a group, I look and watch the player's eyes, and when groups starting to get bored, then I switch it up a little bit. But I usually do it based on when I start to feel like the other PC's actions might come into play, then I switch and start trying to bring them into it. So, for example, the goal of the PCs was the whole plan was to bring the drow up to the top so that the rogue could get around in the basement without being spotted. And so we started with the people outside who were running around and doing their thing with that. And as the guards started to come up, I would switch back to the people down below so they could see the guards getting called and saying, hey guys, there's an assault. Hey, there's another assault. And then they saw the big boss come out of her lair, or her little temple thing. And so then she got to go get the goblins. And then right as she was starting to like get into trouble there. I swap back to the surface, and they got in a fight, and then I try to make the developments from each part affect the other ones in kind of a circle, so that when she was starting to like feel like there's too many guards, then I switched to the surface where they're trying to draw the guards up. And then they were starting to feel like they couldn't hold it any longer; they were going to die because there was just way too many enemies for their level. And I switched to back down to the one in the basement because she wasn't trying to defeat all the drow there. She was trying to get the goblins out, and so I let her kind of play longer there. And then once they're trying to escape, I switched back, and then they knew we're almost done. We can start to run away now.
It sounds like you kind of like
yeah.
You kind of had that like large picture idea of how to properly switch these things. So like because you knew kind of how things were going, that you were able to kind of properly switch them without having to feel like this is too soon or we've wasted too much time, kind of thing. And also when things kind of go all at once for different parts of a building or a scene, it is difficult to do that. So kudos to you, man.
I've heard a lot of YouTube videos being like, "Don't split the party; it's boring for some people," or saying like, "If you split the party, don't use 2 combats because then it gets really boring," or whatever. So I was like, "All right, we need the most ridiculous. We're breaking all the rules." So I had 2 different combats going at the same time, and then a third party split just to make it more interesting.
That's awesome, dude.
And I find it's more about making sure that something interesting is happening and that they're all affecting each other, so it's more of one big encounter than it is 3 kind of independent encounters. And then, like, for example, I know the more traditional split in the party would be you're in like some boring run-of-the-mill dungeon and they get to a fork in the road and they're like, all right, we want to go left, we want to go right. Well, they split the party, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, it works less because the dungeon isn't meant to be the dungeons in like adventures and stuff aren't designed to be explored by individual PCs. They're designed to be explored by an adventuring party.
Yeah.
So when you run something like that, you want to make sure that you're giving the parties ways to communicate and say, hey, I need help. And then actually that's one thing I've done. I gave my parties the ability to communicate via diplomat's pouches, which is from a supplement I bought. But it's the ability to send a letter to the PCs. And so the rogue could go into the basement and then send a message to the PCs up top saying, all right, send the distraction. And then because of that, even though they were kind of separated, one of them could be like, we need help, we're going to die. And the other people could run over and try and help it. And it would become more of a race to see, can they save the PCs before they die? And it makes the party kind of almost unsplittable because even though they're geographically split, they're not isolated. I find that really helps with giving the PCs the ability to do what they want without worrying about getting separated and trapped and killed and stuff.
And I think with a broader understanding of the action is being affected by each one of these independent parties, that makes more sense. I don't think as a player I would be upset if I, knew I had my part of the plan and here's what my plan was. But I think, dungeon crawling, I would want to stick with the party and we all get to do this together. But that makes sense. And, we all, I assume, grew up when the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So having the party split up, ultimately Frodo and Samwise are doing a part of the bigger plan while Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn are also doing the same plan. And I don't ever feel like those movies were... Okay, maybe that's a hot take, that I never felt like those movies were hard to follow.
That's a good point. Like, it almost improves the pacing because watching Sam and Frodo crawl through the dead marshes for too long would get boring, but you can split in the super action-heavy parts of the other groups fighting their various locations. Allowing the pace of the movie better because the 2 different things happening are kind of complementary.
Yeah.
Thanks for that point, Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
We can watch time go by with some more exciting adventure rather than watch Frodo slowly slip into madness. But that makes sense, right? So, like, having those snapshots of Sam and Frodo, it's more of a jolt to see him become overwhelmed with the power of the ring because it's not like a subtle growth if we were to watch him every day. We get more of a jump because time has passed. But I don't think we would have been able to see him actually fall under the power if we were watching it a little bit every day, right? So like sticking a frog in a pot of water and then slowly turning up the heat.
What?
They're not going to realize it's what? Have you never heard that, Adrian?
No, I've never heard. Josiah, is that just a me thing?
All right, so cold-blooded animals.
Oh God.
They sense heat based on temperature changes, and so frogs won't notice if the temperature changes slowly. So if you turn the temperature up in a pot of boiling water, the frog will just sit there and boil to death. It's awful.
So it is just a me thing. Okay. Whoa.
It's commonly used as a reference for like when you're doing something, you can often like let yourself get a little worse at it, or like you know my diet slipped a little bit today, and you let your diet slip a little bit the next day. It's kind of the same principle.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's where I've heard it most often.
Yeah.
I have never. Okay, this is just the first time I've ever heard that term or used in any way. It just sounded very sadistic to me, and I'm like, why would you do that? You
Just frog murdering.
Just straight frog murders.
You know the answer now. It's moral lessons.
That's Sorry, I totally. I was so confused. But yeah, continue on, both of y'all. as I wonder.
The content we're here for.
Yeah, just me, just being exasperated.
Yeah, I mean, we can get to hear your expertise so much that hearing you confused is just part of it.
I've been got. I've gone got.
It's balancing.
Yes, of course. All right. Is there any other questions? We were just about hitting the hour mark.
No, I think I have more. I mean, if anything, our podcast gives us a lot of tools to like do things in a better way, where I tend to think very black and white, like, oh, we have to kill our characters. But no, there are different ways to kill your characters. So I absolutely adore everybody that we have on. So there's a clap. Yeah. And Josiah, you are absolutely welcome back at any time.
Yeah, I felt like I really learned a lot with Josiah on. I feel like I'm like unlocking parts of my brain where I'm just like, no, I can't kill him. Like they've already got these like safety anchors for themselves. Like just let them use the safety net.
Well, there is like spells like Death Ward that I guess you could call safety anchors.
True. Yeah.
That's another ballgame.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I should be able to, utilize all of D&D, including death saving throws.
Don't be scared.
Okay. I'm still scared.
I told you would be. But look, Josiah has done a beautiful job of giving you different options.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Like the goal isn't to kill your PCs, the goal is to tell a good story, and good stories are usually realistic, and in real life people die, so kill your PCs sometimes when it's dramatic and appropriate.
Why do we always talk about death and dying? Like,
it's either death and dying or super sexual things, okay?
Yeah, look.
You've got two moods. It's either you're horny or you're dead, okay?
Or
wanting to murder.
Dungeons and Dragons is kind of focused on death in a lot of ways. The mechanics are all about combat, which is about killing people. And so thinking about that is kind of inherent to the game. And you can't really talk about murdering people without either turning off your moral compass or really thinking about the death you're causing, or at least pretending to cause. So it's appropriate.
Then why are bards so synonymous with everything's fuckable? Why is that? Why is that?
Because they're the rock stars of all of the choices, right? I could be a
Harry Styles like.
Yeah. Is that what the kids like nowadays?
I don't know.
Harry Styles?
Joe Jonas.
Why was that the jump?
Is that a bad or is it, I don't know.
No, that just doesn't feel like a jump that I would have made with Harry Styles to Joe Jonas. Maybe like Nick Jonas,
I don't know
but
which
not
one the
Joe.
hot one is.
I think it was Joe, but Joe's my age.
Okay.
He got that Sophie Turner.
Heard.
Right?
I don't
I feel
know,
like I'm
dude. I
wrong.
don't know which Jonas Brothers got which girl. Okay, this is we've gone off the far edge. It's time to end. It's time to end.
No, Joe Jonas is definitely the hottest one.
Okay,
yeah, he's
okay.
That's not an end.
Yeah, he's the one.
Who do you think the hottest one is, Josiah?
No comment.
No comment. Heard.
Ooh.
All right. And with that spicy take, Alex, take us away.
Thank you all so much for listening and joining us for another episode of Dungeons and Degrees. So, if you want to join in on more of this fun, feel free to help us out on our Patreon. We have a couple of different tiers. Like I said, we're doing one-shots, we're doing AMAs, we're having a Discord. It's a lot of fun. There's stickers and pencils that will be coming out soon. But with the holiday season, we all get behind. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at dndegreespod. You feel free to email us at dndegreespod@gmail.com. Have a recommendation for another guest? Let us know. We would love to have the people you want to hear on our podcast.
Yeah, or you, the listener. We love talking to our listeners and our friends alike. So thank you so much, Josiah. Really lovely talking to you and learning from you. Thank you so much all for listening. My name's Adrian.
And I'm Alex.
Go have some fun.